So we're here to talk about your new series, The Luminaries, which is already debuted on Amazon Prime Video. But I just first quickly wanted to say how much I enjoyed your performance in yesterday. I saw it twice in theaters. It was such a great premise.
Oh, thank you very much. Thanks.
Now, your new series, The Luminaries, has a very interesting premise as well. And I found it very intriguing that the time jumps back and forth quite often. And I never once felt like I was lost because it was just so cleverly done with the costumes and the setting and everything. You could tell
hmm
where you were. I was wondering, when you got the scripts for the episodes, did you get them all at once or just one at a time? And were you able to follow the timeline?
Yes. So in terms of when I read the script, I read the pilot before I auditioned. And then obviously once I was offered the role, I then read obviously the rest. And yeah, I was able to follow it. I think I'm glad that you were, that you felt the same way as well. I think that's down to, first and foremost, Eleanor Catton, our writer, her storytelling being so clear and so precise. I think she knows exactly when to, move back and forth and how best to tell her story. And then, yeah, it does definitely then come down to directorial choices and production design and costume sort of signifiers that, that kind of flag to our audience so that they know where they are. And yeah, that's all part of the magic.
How was it filmed? Was it in chronological order? Because that would make sense so that you wouldn't have to change costumes and settings every day.
That's very wishful thinking. It's kind of the ideal, isn't it? It's kind of the holy grail of when you make anything is to try and film in order. But with this, we had to film out of order for various reasons, which was of course a challenge, especially with something this, as I say, detailed and precise in terms of what characters are doing and when and their motivations. And so I really had to make sure that I knew where I was from scene to scene and where I'd just been, and which is the work you do all the time anyway, but you really had to be on your game for this one. So yeah, it was a complex operation, I think, for everyone.
Tell me about your co-stars because they all play such interesting characters.
Yeah, well, we've got Eve Hewson, who is the lead of the show. She's playing Anna, who we meet as she's arriving in New Zealand, and then she meets my character Emery, and they have a sort of connection. There's some sort of magic between them, but they don't know what it is. But they want to see each other again. But before they can, Anna meets Lydia, played by Eva Green. She seems to have her own motivations and sees something in Anna that she can perhaps manipulate. And seems to be hatching some sort of scheme with Carver, played by Martin Chokash, and so you're kind of drawn into this web of you're not quite sure what until obviously the story unfolds. But what I enjoyed about it, and what I hope people will enjoy, is that it doesn't really go where you think it's going to go. You know, you have this idea of a fish out of water and people being manipulated by forces beyond their control, but Eleanor's story sort of unfolds and takes you in very different directions.
This was set in the 1800s. Well, what do you like best about being in period pieces?
Well, I think to go back to the costumes and the production design, I think that's something that I loved being a part of. You know, it was such a rich show in that way, and especially our set for Hokitika was built from nothing. It was, it was a field on a farm. And then suddenly there was this, what felt like a functioning town that had just been built by our amazing crew and production designers. And as I say, it was on a farm. So we had, the farmer was very generous and lent us some of his livestock. So the chickens and the sheep that you can see are actually his livestock that he he was like, well, they're just going to be in a field, I suppose, so I might as well just give them to you. They can be of use to the show. So yeah, it was really great to be in that world and to be able to look everywhere, and bar ignoring the cameras and all the technology that obviously we're required to make the show, you could easily be transported in time to where you need to be. And then on top of that, the costumes, which were beautiful and amazingly put together, if perhaps a challenge to wear during a New Zealand summer, because they get pretty warm. But yeah, they're probably my favorite costumes to date.
Oh, fantastic. And what did you enjoy most about filming in New Zealand?
The landscape is just so breathtaking. For one, I mean, in terms of the visual side of our storytelling, it was so amazing to just get to work every day and see these beautiful rolling hills and mountains and the sea, beaches that would stretch for miles in either direction. And there's something about New Zealand that has a power, the nature has a power that I've never felt anywhere else in the world. So to get to go to work and live in that world was fantastic. And the culture, getting to learn so much about the Maori culture, the indigenous culture in New Zealand, and their beliefs and the sort of bedrock of the country that is still, I think, very much respected, despite colonial histories, which we kind of touch on a little bit in our show. Modern New Zealand seems to have a real respect for the indigenous culture, and that's to be commended.
How long were you there? How long did it take to film the entire series?
It was 5 months all in all, with a little break for Christmas in the middle. But it was 5 months, but it flew by, which is what happens when you're enjoying yourself.
And finally, what are you working on next? I heard that you're working on a mini series about a flu pandemic.
Yes, yeah. It's a series called Station 11. It's a very famous Canadian book, and it follows the survivors of a flu pandemic as they try to kind of rebuild their world. We started production a year ago, before any of this, obviously, that we've been through had happened.
Wow.
And obviously production was halted by all the the tragedy that we've all been living with. So we've just picked production back up again, and yeah, hopefully we'll get to tell our story.
Where is that being filmed?
In Toronto.
Oh, are you in Toronto right
Mhm.
now?
I am, yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, me too.
There we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, it was such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for all your work in these fantastic movies and TV series.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.